going to start by making the gnocchi. So it's a 1/4 cup of butter, 1/4 cup. Have equal parts flour, 1 cup flour, and a 1/4 cup of cornstarch. It's going to make a more delicate dough than all flour. And then some salt, 1/2 teaspoon. Not too much because there's going to be saltiness coming from the Parmesan cheese. Okay, and then this needs to cook for 3 minutes. I'm not sure what size vessel I'm going to put the mixture in. I need to see how much it makes, but I was thinking of using this square silicone mold. Coming up on the 6 minutes, and I'm going to start gradually adding the milk. You see how this has got some color, which also means it's got a little more flavor. I'm going to, before this begins to bubble again, I'm going to start dripping it into my egg yolks to temper them. Okay, so I've turned off the heat and I'm adding in a 1/2 cup of Parmesan cheese. The recipe doesn't specify, but other recipes for this are very specific that it is Parmesan cheese. And then additional will be sprinkled over it during the final browning. And then I'm going to check the seasoning in case the cheese didn't add enough salty flavor. A little more salt. think this is going to be a good size after all. Let's see. And it's supposed to go in a buttered pan, but because this is silicone and they didn't use this back in the late 1800s, no, you don't have to butter silicone. And then smooth it out because it's going to get cut into shapes and then cooked again once it's cooled. So this is kind of a makeshift pasta almost. Right, this is chilled down. You can see it's holding its shape. It's still kind of delicate, but it's going to brown in the oven and firm up. And I'm standing here trying to think what kind of sauce to serve with this. If I want to do maybe a thin, like a bechamel with some nutmeg in it. Tomato sauce is probably the most obvious, but I'm just not really big on tomato sauce, so I don't know what I want to do. She does have a tomato sauce in the book that actually starts like bechamel, so it's got the flour and butter and then the tomatoes and whatever else is in there. I looked at that when I made the Lenten croquettes 2 videos ago, and ended up making that lemony tahini, which was so delicious with it. So we'll see. When you click on this, you'll know because it will be in the photo, but I'm just sitting here wondering what I'm going to do with this. I'm going to turn this out onto the mat. And then it says to cut it into just different shape options. None of which are round, but I'm going to use rounds. Let's see what size I want. Oh, bigger. Alright, that's good. And then we're going into a baking dish. I'm going to use this one. You might remember that from the bread pudding recipe. And just start cutting. And I'm going, since this is the smoother side, I'll let this stay face up so it looks pretty in the oven. In the oven, in the dish, listen to me. It's kind of delicate. I think once it's crisped up in the oven with the addition of cheese on top, it's going to have a nice textural contrast. Right, so I'm going to get these cut and put in the bowl, and then I'll come back when it's time to get it in the oven. Right, I've got everything laid into my dish, and the extras, you know, because we really cook in this kitchen, are in here, so that'll be cooked fresh another day. I'll cover that up. And now I'm going to put on the remaining Parmesan cheese. I think I am going to go with a tomato sauce because a bechamel, it would just be too rich. This is already a relatively rich base. So it'd be like having cream on cream on cream. Yeah, my cream is always delicious. And I think the tomato contrast would be better for this. Alright, so I'm going to put this in the oven and let it brown. I'm going to use a moderate oven. She just says to put it in the oven until it gets brown. And if it gets like under a broiler, I think that would kind of make it lose its shape and also not develop that texture I'm looking for. So I'll put it in. I'm going to time how long it takes so that you will know if you want to try this yourself. But I expect it to be delicious. To make this tomato sauce, it's a can of tomatoes cooked with a slice of onion for 15 minutes. Then after the tomatoes and onion have simmered, they are to be pureed very smoothly and then added to flour and butter that have been browned first. And then it's cooked until it's thick and smooth. My suspicions were correct. The gnocchi did lose its shape, and you can see here what it is supposed to look like. It's supposed to hold its shape very nicely. And I believe the issue is in the cornstarch, because none of the other recipes I've seen for it online when I went looking have cornstarch. And cornstarch kind of loses its thickening ability after the first round of heat that it's treated with. It is very unstable versus wheat flour, which is very stable. Once you thicken it up and cook it, it's done. I don't know that freezing it first would have helped because it still would have broken down in the oven. So, in my opinion, from what I know about cooking, it's a problem with the actual recipe. And because this is one of many very bare, spare instruction recipes, there may have been another little tip that was left out. I don't know, but the way it's written and the way I made it, there was a little problem. Now, that said, this is extremely delicious. It was nothing that could not be fixed by some slices of very crusty baguette. It had a fundito texture. The tomato sauce, even though I don't typically like tomato sauce that much, something about that flour and butter really mellowed it out, and I enjoyed it so much, and it was a wonderful compliment to the somewhat failed attempt at gnocchi a la Romaine.